Hi needlepoint friends, I am finally doing a tutorial on how to do the ribbon belt like I did for my tartan belt. It's been about 1.5 years, but if you look back in my feed, you'll be able to find that I finished this myself, and it just ties, makes a cute bow to tie at the waist to finish it. So I said that I would do a tutorial, so finally I am doing that on another belt I stitched. So this one is going to be a little different, but the mechanics of it are pretty similar. Basically, the only difference is that it's going to be like this one, where it's going to have rings so that it can just come through, almost like D-rings, but these are O-rings when you finish it. So that is how I'm going to finish the one that I'm going to do today. And maybe I already said this, I am way outside of my comfort zone and have never done a video like this, so bear with me. You can find lots of different rings on, like here's some other tortoise ones, some bamboo ones, these gold ones. I have found them mostly on Etsy, but I'm sure there are other places as well, but that's a good place. You can find vintage belt pieces, all different kinds. So, but these are the ones I'm going to use today because my belt is more summery. So these go with what I'm looking for there. Okay, so I have my belt. I did the binding stitch around the edges. You could probably also just fold it over, but I like how the binding stitch takes care of that for me, and I like the bordering look that it gives to the needlepoint. So the first thing I'm going to do, I've cut it off at just a little bit past each section, is I know where this wraps around my waist, how far I need on each side to where it would be centered with the loops. And that piece for me is 4 inches. So I'm going to start by folding this over, just using these clips. And then the way I'm going to do this is going to run all along the back. And so I am going to need it to come 4 inches out here, and then about 1 inch or so back here. So I'm going to measure that 4 inches. That's pretty close. Right there to the end of the belt. Hope you can see that. Plus a little bit extra here. Okay. So this is probably the hardest part of the whole thing, is getting this end. You can see I kind of ironed it briefly so I would see where the middle was, because I want to be able to fold this down to make a point. I'll show you what I want it to look like. I want it to look like this here. Okay. So I want that to come here, and then you'll see that my belt is not quite as wide as my ribbon. I'm sorry, my ribbon is not quite as wide as my belt. So I just want to center it in there. I'm going to put these clips on it. And I want to make sure that my folds to make my point come out even. Again, like I said, this is kind of the hardest part of the whole deal. Okay, so I have found you can use regular thread. You don't need a special needle. So I have my machine ready to go, and I'm just going to stitch. Starting there, and I'm going to stitch up to the edge across to get that secured on there. Okay. So there we go. I have my beginning secured. So now you need your ribbon to stay the whole length, because you're going to wrap it around and it's going to go all the way around the back. So it's kind of cumbersome in the beginning. Probably measure it, make sure it's right. But I am going to loop these through. Okay, make sure I have it correct. And I'm going to make sure it's about 4 inches from the end. There we go. Okay. Okay. Now you want to just make sure that you can line these up so that they are perfectly together, because you're going to stitch them together. And you want to make sure that you are stitching on top the same that would be the front of your belt. And you're going to stitch those together. You're going to come out from where you were stitching, stitch them together as far as you can get on your machine out here, stitch down and back. Okay, so if you can see here, I stitched that section and I am back to the beginning where I'm right on the belt. And now I am just going to keep stitching, making sure that I am making it through to the ribbon on the back of the belt. So depending on your size and your ribbon, you can stitch right out here on the edges. You'll see this one, the ribbon was actually slightly longer, which again, I kind of liked. It gave a frame. I just stitched as close to the edge as I could. Depending on your colors, you could have a different thread than your bobbin thread. I'm just going ahead and going with the darker pink that matches my ribbon all the way through. So you just start and just make sure that you're feeding and holding. You could pin it first if you wanted to. The ribbon. So you can see it is picking it up back there. Now, this one, because I'm going with such a dark color and my ribbon is not exactly the same width as my belt, on the inside you'll be able to see a little bit of color. I could have gone back through with a little bit of paint and done that. I could have done a better job measuring to make sure that my belt and my ribbon were the same width when they were finished. Those were some different options. Since it's going to be on the inside, I'm okay with it. No one will see it, except you guys will know. Okay, when you get down to where you are getting close to the end on the first side that you're doing, you will want to figure out how long of a tail you will need to come back and loop through. So you just want to make sure that you keep enough that it's going to loop through this section. Okay, so I would err on the side of caution because we can fix it later and do quite a bit. So you want to bring that out and fold it over, and then you want to bring it back on itself the same distance that you did over here. And I measured and mine was 1 3/4 inches. So I might have already come too far. I'm going to take this off my machine. I'll try to show you here what I'm doing. So again, scissors. Just cut this across. Okay. That's your extra. Figure out kind of your center. This is an easy way to do that. And then you want to fold it over so that you can kind of come to a point. Again, that is even on both sides. And I'm not going to worry about that frayed part right now. Measure where I need to be. Oh, look at that. I'm exactly there. I'm going to center it. Oh good, I didn't come too far. There's probably a better way to do this. I am not a seamstress. So this is what has worked for me. So now back on the machine where I left off. And I want to hold these together real flat out here. Now, the only thing is that can be tricky is if the back side of what you're stitching is not as neat looking as the top. Because this is going to end up coming through the O-rings and flipping back on itself. So I'm going to stitch out here a little bit. And depending on what color ribbon you have, how your machine is set up, okay, I'm okay with how mine looks. I have done it before where I haven't been, so I'm going to go ahead and just keep on stitching this. Okay, once you've come through there, you just keep stitching now down the other side of your belt. Okay, once you have finished that, then you go back to where you had your little angle. And you stitch around that. So that it matches the other side. Okay, now it's not centered the best. I might go back and fix that. The one thing that is really nice about this option, I guess you can't see it, but is that because my size has changed over time, have easily gone back, taken the stitches out. You just have to be real careful not to do the, to hit the needle point, cut the needle point when you're seam ripping. I put more ribbon on to make it fit again. And I didn't, so that way it was kind of nice. I could just do that myself. Okay, there's just one more step I'll show you here in just 1 second. Okay, so try the belt on and then figure out how long you want the tail to hang down and just kind of mark that. Okay, once you have it marked, just make sure that you know which way you want the angle to go when it's kind of hanging down. And I want mine to go this way. So I'm going to mark over here so I know it's at that angle. And again, not very scientific here. I just stitch an angle across here, sorry, where I wanted it. And then trim my tails. And then all I do is cut a little bit beyond where I stitched. Now, you could go through, probably the cleaner thing to do would be to hem that, turn it in on itself and hem that, or you could put some fray check, whatever you want to do, that's the easiest. It won't really get noticed that much. Make my cut a little cleaner. But there you go. That's really all there is to it. And then your belt is ready to go.